If it is 2 rak'at, it will be 2 rak'at. 4 rak'at, even 2 rak'at. Yani, you must pray according to the fard. Why? Because whatever you lose from the fard, it will be continued by the sunnah. For this Rasulullah ﷺ ordered the sunnah. And there is some sunnahs, like the witr, duha, ishraq, awabin, they are completing the 50 obligatory which Allah made them for Rasulullah ﷺ. They are complete by this sunnah. They are considered
when first given, it wasn't praying 50 times a day? Or?
Yeah, 50 times. No. Just Allah ordering the prayer. Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam, he was interfering with Rasulullah, telling him no, too much, until they are 5, he told him too much, they will I feel shy to ask more than, because if he ask Rasulullah,
they become Shia. Except for the Shia, they asked for it and got 3.
No, if Rasulullah asks less than 5, then Allah will cancel the prayer. He make it as before in Mecca, in time of Mecca, in the first of Islam. It was only sujood, or 2 rak'at or sujood, enough. In Medina the prayer came. Yani, not in Medina, in the last year in Mecca when Rasulullah went to marry. And the fasting was in Medina after descending when Rasulullah settled after 1 year, Allah ordering now to fast. And Allah making the 5 terms of Islam to be slowly during the 23 years. Not in the first year to do all of them.
Now people come to take Shahada and they give them everything.
This Mawlana say now they are putting the load of a lorry on a donkey. Forget the donkey, but they must complete for a new converter the Islam in 23 years, as Rasulullah completed to the Sahaba in 23 years, not to complete it in one month, one night. Now just enter and say, not enough. You must pray, you must give zakah, you must fast Ramadan, you must go to Hajj.
And make up all the prayers from the before you begin with.
In Khitan too? Circumcision also stood with 2 cuts.
You must cut your, what they call it in English?
Foreskin.
Circumcision, but the one...
Foreskin.
No, yes, foreskin or circumcision, but the what they call the earring. Pins, the pins, you must cut it. Some of them they cut their pins also. Some of them they cut their eggs also.
Balls.
Their balls.
No, that's not what I meant. Oops.
Now you know.
Why you cut your balls? So not to bring children.
Oh.
You want to be like a priest. And the woman, we want to be like a nun. Be like a nun, be like a priest. Who will say no? And for this Allah Almighty leaving people as they like till the day of judgment. Then Allah on the day of judgment, He will question, and He will question everyone according to his intention. If it is in sincere intention, Allah will forgive him. If it's a bad intention, Allah will sentence him. But mostly there is 4 kinds. The Ummah, Allah divided them, Shaykh said, to 4 types. One, whom they are mukallaf, what they are mukallaf, like responsible, mature, responsible. And they are the Sahaba, Siddiqs, and whom they have mind. And the second type, the Ummah, whom they are the nation of Rasulullah, whom they are realizing which is haram from halal, forbidden or permitted. And the third type, whom they know nothing except imitating. And these ones, Allah will not question them. And the third type, they are the crazy one. Allah will not put His mind with them. And so, these whom they have no mind, Allah is not going to put His mind, Yawm al-Qiyam, with their mind. If you have a fool one, you can't question him, or you put your mind with his mind. No, never.
He's not responsible.
Not only not responsible, you will be a mad one. If you ask a mad one, you will be a mad one also. Allah is a mad. Never. How is going to question? And for this, these three types of the Ummah, Allah is going to forgive them for the sake of the first type. The first type, Allah will be blessing them because they will be Siddiqs. He will bless them by all means of blessing. And the three types, then they will be following that. They will make shafa'ah for them. And the first type, who is the first type? All the non-believers, the non-Muslim. Because if they have mind, they enter to Islam. But since they don't have mind, they remain out of Islam. And for this, you will see Jahannam totally empty. No one in Jahannam. Shaitan will tell Allah Almighty, if there is one entering by me for my sake to Jahannam, I make him to enter to Jahannam, send me the second behind him. If Allah say yes, there is a one, you take it from my hand and you make him to go to Jahannam, then Shaitan is much more powerful than Allah Almighty. Because he catch a one from the hand of Allah Almighty and make him to Jahannam. Allah will not say yes, there is a one. No one is going to go to Jahannam because of you. So why to send me to Jahannam? If there is no one by me enter to Jahannam, why won't you send me to Jahannam? Then, not this enough, he will tell Allah Almighty, come, O Allah Almighty, I have something to ask you. What do you want, Iblis? And then he will ask him, you say for every goodness you give 10 times. If there is no Iblis, there was prophets. Allah will say no. If there is no Iblis, Shaitan, there is mu'mins. Allah will say no. If there is no Shaitan, Iblis, there was Shaheed. No. If there was no Iblis, there was Siddiqs. No. If there is no Iblis, there was Salihin. No. If there was no Iblis, there is no. Come, I want 10 times of the Maqams of the Prophets, of the Mu'mins, of the Siddiqs, of the Shaheeds, because all by me they reach that Maqam. And you are saying no one by me enter to Jahannam. No need for me to enter to Jahannam, and I want to be rewarded for 10 times as the Prophets and all this. Then Allah will tell all the people at that time, look at the earth, to the crowd of judgment, and they will look, and Allah will tell to Iblis, Shaitan, and to Abu Jahl, and to Namrud, Fir'aun, come from the back of these people, go to your Maqams to Jannah. He arranged for them special Jannah, they go to their Jannah, and the people, they are looking at the earth, seeing all well decorated. Once they enter to their Jannah, raise your head, they will then look at Allah Almighty, they go to your places in Jahannam. And they go to Jahannam. And the Jahannam, it will be full with all shaitans, with all mankind, with all people, but not their souls and lights, but by their egos and their physical bad deeds, which Allah will create from their bodies and enter it to Jahannam. And for this Allah saying, I am going to fill Jahannam with all human beings, with all creation, because from the deeds of them Allah will created bodies and will send it to Jahannam, and the lights, the essence of everyone will go to its own Maqam in Jannah. And for this Allah saying in the ayah, in the Holy Quran, plenty of ayat, we created you dual, وَخَلَقْنَاكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا, dual, everyone two. One, the lights of Allah Almighty, the essence of humanity. One, the deeds and the satanic world and the physical satanic world which related to his egos. The egos and the satanic world go to Jahannam, and the lights and the essence which created from the light of Allah Almighty will go to the ocean of Wahdaniyah of Allah Almighty. That is the day of Yawm al-Qiyamah. But ulama doesn't know, even Iblis doesn't know all these realities. Even they heard about it, they will not believe. And it is all in the Holy Quran, Allah mentioning it. And for this Grand Shaykh said Mawlana, Grand Shaykh is the lawyer of the Day of Judgment. He will be defending all people like this in the divine presence of Allah Almighty. and for his sake Rasulullah will make shafa'ah for everyone. Then Allah will say, Allah will dress all the crowd of Day of Judgment by his 99 names and the greatest name, that all of them appear as if they are neither Allah Almighty or Allah Almighty, life of Allah Almighty, and he will make the crowd of Jahannam to Jahannam and the crowd of Jannah to Jannah, which means he differentiates between the two bodies, make all the bodies from the satanic world and all the egos behind the Satan, behind Shaitan, and the light of Satan when he was Azazil, and the essence and base of everyone behind Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and this will enter to Jannah and this enter to Jannah, and you tell Rasulullah, this is the plan now, what you want to do. And Rasulullah, when he saw all this, what he will do? Cannot do anything. All they dressed by the 99 names of Allah Almighty, by the greatest name of Allah Almighty. Then Rasulullah, whatever Allah dressed him from all maqams till Maqam Al-Mahmud, this is the Maqam Al-Mahmud, but Allah dressed him all maqams and all ascending and all realities and secrets, he will dress it to the people of Day of Judgment, to the crowd. And all of them, they then will be, their faces, their bodies in divine presence of Allah Almighty, the same Muhammadun Rasulullah. All Muhammad, Allah will look, because Allah will not look to any face, not the same face of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. All they will be Muhammadi, and then all the people will be thanking Rasulullah for whatever he grant them, and Allah Almighty will invite him, come and sit on the throne. I created the throne for you, my beloved Muhammad, and I promised this throne before 80,000 years of creation to be created, that you are going to sit, not me. Throne is a created thing. I am a creator, cannot carry me. It is created for you, my beloved Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and come and sit on this throne, and Rasulullah will sit on this throne. And this is what the ayah Allah saying, when they saw so close Rasulullah to Allah Almighty and sitting on this throne in Surah Tabarak, all of them they will say, oh earth, open and swallow us, ashamed how they dealt with Rasulullah in his past life and now what Rasulullah. And this is the Maqam of Mahmud, where all they thank Rasulullah that he saved them from the angerness, not from the punishment, they don't care for the punishment, but he saved them from the angerness of Allah Almighty.
Wrath or anger?
Anger of Allah Almighty, and all of them they will be dressed by Ridwanullah al-Akbar, and Allah will send them the common people. They will be like domestic animals. They go to a Jannah Allah created for animals, and they go to Jannah, to their stables, and the man whom they are Siddiq, they go to Maqam INDALLAH, the neighborhood to Allah Almighty, and Rasulullah over the throne. These paradises, not under the throne, and the ones whom they are prophets, and the one whom they are blessing by light of inheriting the light of prophecy of prophets and sealed of prophets, they will go to Maqam of uniqueness of Allah Almighty Ahadiyya, under the light of the reflection of the holy face of the holy essence of the absolute identity of Allah Almighty. This is the Day of Judgment, not like as people they think.
So
and like this, it will be finished like this. 500 years of waiting, it will be finished like this, and everyone will go to the Maqam, and everyone will be then swimming in the ocean, either in the ocean of Wahdaniyya or the ocean of Ahadiyya, and the common people, they will be in 8 paradises. One light, beam of light from the ocean of Wahdaniyya, if open over the 8 paradises, they will be melted with the people inside them. One beam of light from the ocean of Ahadiyya over the ocean of Wahdaniyya, it will be melted with all the people inside. And one beam from the ocean of the lights of reflection of the holy face of the essence of Allah Almighty over the ocean of Ahadiyyah, it will be melted also, like this. And then all they will enter into the ocean of the lights, these ones of the essence, the lights of the holy face of Allah Almighty. And then Allah Almighty will declare to all that I am a hidden treasure, and I am now as I used to be, hidden treasure, nothing with me, all shadows, they will be all shadows, no more existing, only Allah Almighty is existing. Then what will be going on? Because the attributes of Allah Almighty, Mawlana say, never stop. As a creator is going to be continuing and continuing and continuing. They say forever only to approach this to mind, but there is no
time.
No time. There is no forever. There is no even ever for forever. It is as Allah Almighty, no time starting and no time ending, the same all His attributes starting, no time starting, no time ending. No time. Allah created time, Allah created place, and for this there is no place for Allah Almighty, there is no time for Allah Almighty. Only Allah Almighty saying there is, I have a place. I have a place. It is in your heart, my children of Adam alayhi salam. It is in your heart, my place, and there is time. I have a time. Also, what is the time? The time is when you will find Allah Almighty. This is the time which Allah make to you, when you find Allah Almighty. And He say, I am creating you to find me. I created you to build up your house to be house for me, to make me to settle my throne and my life and my greatest name into your heart. But all people, they are totally headless, ignorant for the trust, the amanah which are carrying, and also oppressor for it, because they don't know what they are carrying from Allah Almighty, because they choose to carry it. The mountains refused, the earth is refused. Only children of Adam alayhi salam, they accepted, while the earth, the heavens, the skies, the mountains, all they refuse to carry the trust from Allah Almighty. Only children, they say, we will carry. You want to carry, carry if you can. And for this Allah Almighty saying to the malaika, I am going to make, He didn't say I am going to create, I am going to make a khalif for me in earth. وَإِذْ قَالَ رَبُّكَ لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ إِنِّي جَاعِلٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ خَلِيفَ, I am going to make a khalif in earth. He didn't say I am going to create, because already we are a heavenly creation. Allah created us in heavens. And for this Sayyidina Azrail alayhi salam, the only malaika who accept to bring samples from all over the universes and earth to Allah Almighty, to heaven, to the divine presence of Allah Almighty, where Allah Almighty there from these samples of the earths, He make the perfect man, Sayyidina Adam alayhi salam, and He created him. And it was in heavens, and the soul was blown in heavens from Allah Almighty. He said, when I blow from my soul into him, make sujood to him, because now he is dressed by the soul of Allah Almighty, by secret from Allah Almighty. And the soul of Allah Almighty is not a created thing, uncreated thing, because it relates to creator. Anything related to creator is creator, uncreated. And for this Allah Almighty blowing from him, so his soul into Adam and all his children. And the one who carried the holy breeze of Allah Almighty, and this blowing was the one in the back of Adam alayhi salam, sealed of Prophet Muhammadun Rasulullah. He was the one carrying this holy breeze of Allah Almighty, and then this holy breeze Allah Almighty make it to be popular in time when Allah Almighty by it He made the talqeen in cave of Thor to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and to all the grand sheikhs and to all 7,007 imams of Naqshbandi way and to all their murids by saying Allahu, Allahu, Allahu Haq. Everyone was carrying this holy breeze of Allah Almighty from Rasulullah. And Allah was saying in that ayat, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ يُبَايِعُونَكَ إِنَّمَا يُبَايِعُونَ اللَّهِ يَدُ اللَّهِ فَوْقَ أَيْدِيهِمْ. What is the meaning of this? The one who make bay'ah with you, they are making bay'ah with Allah Almighty, because the Almighty hand of Allah Almighty over their hands. But really was not the hand of Allah Almighty, it was the hand of Rasulullah. Why Allah didn't say it is the hand of my beloved Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? He say my hand over their hands. Where is the hand of Rasulullah? Where it disappear? Because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he is by himself, in pre-eternal, before beginning, forever, without ending. He is the almighty hand of Allah Almighty. The almighty hand of Allah Almighty, not like our hand, it not looks like us, but his real almighty hand of Allah Almighty, seed of Prophet Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And for this he say, my hand over their hand. And in other ayat he say, وَمَا رَمَيْتَ إِذْ رَمَيْتَ وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ رَمَى. You are not the one throwing, but it is the hand of Allah Almighty throwing descends on the faces of the non-believer, because he is the almighty hand of Allah Almighty. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he is the divinely godly tongue of Allah Almighty, translating the revelation of the divinely godly knowledge of Allah Almighty to the hearts of all the creations and to all the atoms and the lights and the souls whom appearing from La ilaha illallah, they were under the training and behaving of Muhammadun Rasulullah. You are the one translating to them the revelation, because Allah didn't talk to them. Al-Rahmn allama al-Quran. He taught them. How he taught them? By revelation. And who was the one translating this revelation and teaching? Who was the divinely godly tongue of Allah Almighty? Muhammadun Rasulullah. After teaching, Allah Almighty appeared a human being, insan, appeared the insan. Al-Rahmn allama al-Quran. After teaching, Mawlana say, he appeared insan, a human being. And then Allah promising, after this, allamahul bayan, I will teach them also Rasulullah, which means the divinely godly tongue of Allah Almighty, to train them and to dread them by the secrets of the Holy Quran. Bayan, the secret of the Holy Quran, the meaning, the secret, the realities of every letter, of every revelation of the divinely godly knowledge of Allah Almighty, from eternal and forever. And were the ulama to know this knowledge, and were awliya, even Mawlana and Grand Shaykh said, if they will being given this knowledge, they will sentence that Grand Shaykh and Mawlana to be hanged, that they are out of Islam, because this knowledge cannot be given even to awliya. It is only in time of Sayyidina Al-Mahdi alayhi salam, when his sword will be available, then this knowledge will be addressed to all. Any ulama will be criticizing, he will cut 70,000 alim will be slaughtered by Sayyidina Al-Mahdi alayhi salam. And most of the ones now who think that the non-believer is going to be the ones to be killed, they are the ones to be the army of Sayyidina Al-Mahdi alayhi salam, with the unseen descendant of Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu, and with the believers of by Sayyidina al-Mahdi. From now they believe he's going to appear, and they going to be the safe, and the other one, all of them, they are going to be finished by Sayyidina al-Mahdi alayhi salam. And for this it is not something easy. Now people, they are living like animals, only to eat and to drink and to ride their wives to ride their donkeys, and everyone giving his donkey whatever she likes, and then when the day will come, either by appearance of Sayyidina al-Mahdi alayhi salam, or by death, Allah will take off the veils and make their eyes to be well sharpened, seeing well all these unseen knowledge which Allah opening to Rasulullah. They will be at that time biting their fingers, as Allah saying in the Holy Quran, يوم يعض الظالم على يدي يقول يا ليتني اتخذت مع الرسول سبيلا يا ليتني لم اتخذ فلانا خليلا. In Surah Al-Furqan, they will say, they will bite their fingers and they will say, oh, if we were taking the way of beloved Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to be in this way, better for us than to take this or that as a friend, which means themselves and their shaitan and the egos to be their friend. They make us to miss dhikrullah AZZAWAJAL, to miss Allah Almighty, to miss finding Allah Almighty. And Allah sent us to this earth to find Allah Almighty, not to be headless from Allah Almighty. May Allah forgive us and mercy us. And for this, Allah Almighty sending awliya, Grand Shaykh, Mawlana Shaykh Nazim, to make people not to be headless and to find Allah Almighty. And Mawlana told me once, no one coming and asking me, I want to find Allah Almighty, how I can find Him? All they come to me, we want this azima, this ta'weez, we want to read on water, read on us and finish. This is what they want. And no one is telling me, oh, guide us to find Allah Almighty. Once Mawlana says, Sayyidina Jalaluddin al-Rumi Qaddas Allah Sirruhu, big awliya, it was midnight and there was no electricity, midnight, all sleeping, and one of the murids knocking at the door, Mawlana said, and he opened the door, he saw his murids. What you are doing here in this time? He say, I lost my son, till now he didn't come to the house, please find it for me. Less than 1 second, Sayyidina Jalaluddin al-Rumi, he told him, it is now standing on the door of your house. He make his hand so long, catching him and bringing him, carrying him to the door of his father. Then in this Fajr prayer, he say, oh my murids, your brother coming to me midnight and I am so busy to tell me I lost my son and I am not finding him. Never him or any one of you, they come to me and they said, we are missing Allah Almighty. Please make us to search and to find Allah Almighty. No one of you asking me to find Allah Almighty, all of you asking for this or that from me, and no one asking me to, well, we missed and we lost Allah Almighty. Please guide us to find Allah Almighty. Allah sent Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, 124,000 prophets, awliyaullah, to make people to find Allah Almighty in this earth, in this life. Not to be going out of this life without finding Allah Almighty. The one who goes without finding Allah Almighty, Allah saying, وَمَنْ كَانَ فِي هَذِهِ أَعْمَى فَهُوَ فِي الْآخِرَةِ أَعْمَى وَأَضَلُّ سَبِيلًا. The one who is blind from Allah Almighty, he didn't find Allah Almighty, he is going to pass away as a blind. In Day of Judgment, he is going to be blind and worse than a blind, because no more allowed to see the face of Allah Almighty on the Day of Judgment. He will be less than a common or like shaitan at that time. And for this now there is some, in YouTube they put a woman, she went to Hajj and she was praying, I am not seeing the Kaaba. And they told her, how you are not seeing the Kaaba and you are praying toward the Kaaba, facing the Kaaba, and you making tawaf around the Kaaba. I am not seeing the Kaaba. And she was crying. Look at YouTube, you can't find it. And then a good Sufi one, he told her, what you did in your life that you are not, Allah making you not to see the Kaaba? Well, I didn't do anything. I used to be washing the bodies of dead ones, women, And this what I was doing, and all this I am doing, yani, something which is good in Sharia. I didn't do any bad thing. He said, think well. But she told him there was one thing I was doing. What you did? She told them, I use everyone who make black magic or any badness to another one, he will give me this paper which is written and the black magic to put it on the mouth of this dead woman, so it will be buried with her and no one can find it to solve it, to harm the people for a small amount of money they give me. And he told her, for this Allah make you not to see the Kaaba, and for this small badness Allah make her not to see the Kaaba. How about us whom we are not able to find Allah Almighty in this life? We are going to see the face of Allah Almighty in the day of judgment. This woman was not able to see Kaaba, and the Kaaba is stone, nothing. How about the holy face of Allah Almighty? When Rasulullah told the Sahaba, for Allah, you are going to see the face of your God like the sun, noontime in a full uncloudy day. How about that day of Yawm al-Qiyamah? One day Allah will not allow the one to see his face, because we didn't find Allah Almighty in this life, because we were busy in eating, drinking, riding our donkey, and making ourselves under the burden of our shaitan and egos and all desires and sexual desires and badness, and then we say we want to see Allah Almighty. Not praying make you to reach to Allah Almighty. Not fasting make you to reach to Allah Almighty. Not all this make you to reach to Allah Almighty. The good intention, the good intention and the good thinking how to respect a human being as you respect Allah Almighty, and to serve a human being as you serve Allah Almighty and Rasulullah ﷺ, Allah then will accept you. And for this Allah dressed awliya light of wilayah, not to be amusing themselves by it, but to serve human being, to serve His people, to make them to reach to Allah Almighty, to find Allah Almighty, not to be blind and to miss Allah Almighty in this life. Now anyone who got sick, quickly go to doctors. We are all spiritually sick. Why we don't go to the doctor? Why we don't go to Allah Almighty, to Rasulullah, to awliya? We deny awliyaullah. We say bid'ah, we say shirk. Even some, they don't come to pray in our mosque. And Rasulullah, he said, the one who not pay our praying, who will not eat from our food, and he will not eat from our slaughtering, is not from us. And these people, even they are Muslims, they reject our praying, they reject our iman, they reject our belief, they reject our food, they reject the food. Do not mean the food, this food which we put it, but the spiritual food. They reject it. They are only behind the food with the shaitan and the Wahhabi and these bad people giving. And for this, how they are going to reach to Allah Almighty? Their life is miserable, their life is worse, their akhirah is much more worse. They are here blind, in the grave blind, in the other life blind, and you will see all these people, the earth eating their bodies, not leaving one piece of their bodies in the grave, cleaning them. And even though they are stubborn, they are idiot, they are tools of shaitan, so proud, they want to make themselves something important, to control people, to make themselves the boss of everyone, and everyone to be under their command. No humbleness, no respecting, and Allah Almighty, the first thing ordering Rasulullah ﷺ to be polite and humble with everyone, because humbleness will reach you to all maqams, politeness will make all people to come to Allah Almighty, and while to be rude and to be impolite and to be proud, it will be inheriting you from shaitan, that all people to be cursing you, Allah cursing you, Rasulullah cursing you, and people running away from you. But the one who is a little bit clever, he make fun from the mind of people like Fir'aun, they will obey him, but for a while then they will be drawn, and the people will be drawn with him, and no one to save them except the hand of Allah Almighty. And for this may Allah forgive us and mercy us and bless us by humbleness and politeness, and make us to be ones whom following Mawlana Shaykh Nazim, Grand Shaykh, awliyaullah, by all means of following, not only to say we are following, but to be blessing by their practicing, by their teaching, by whatever they were doing, to find Allah Almighty, to find Rasulullah ﷺ, to find awliyaullah AZZAWAJAL, not to miss them, because missing them, you miss yourself. When you miss yourself, then you will be biting your fingers when you are passing away from this life, blaming yourself why you didn't dwell in the way of Rasulullah ﷺ, why you were not busy by zikrullah, by salatu wa salam on Rasulullah, why you missed all this to be with your ego, with this friend, with that friend, with this coffee house, with this TV, with this one or that one, only collecting money. Even Rasulullah say you have 2 valleys of gold, you will open the 3rd valley to fill it with gold, then you will leave everything. As Zulqarnain, he was conquering all the earth, and when he passed away, 27 years old, he passed away, he told his minister, put my hand out of the box of the coffin, so that everyone and all whom attending my funeral, and the minister knows that Zulqarnain, who was the emperor of all the earth, Allah give him, he is going empty hand to Allah Almighty, nothing except either the good deeds and to be well dressed by Allah Almighty and finding Allah Almighty, or by bad deeds, and you will be then well finding shaitan and following to shaitan, whom he will make you in the Jahannam, falling down, not finding your reality, not finding your spirituality, not finding your malakut, not dressing by the greatest name of Allah Almighty, which Allah Almighty created you to be representing His greatest name and to be crowned by His greatest name. May Allah forgive us. إلى شرف النبي وآله وصحبه الفاتحة. الحمد لله حمدا كثيرا في نعمك في مزيدا كما ينبغي لجلال وجهك الكريم سلطانك العظيم يا الله. نعم جليل الله بركة خليل الله شفاعي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. اللهم ارحم صاحب هذا الطعام الأثيم واستعملنا الصالحين وتوفنا المسلمين. اللهم زد ولا تكل شرف النبي سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وآله وصحبه. حضرة أستاذنا وأستاذ أستاذ صديق وخاتم شيخنا نازم حقائق عبد الله الفائز الدارستان حج أنا هذا سلطان سبت سيد العالمين سيدي أبي عبد الله الحسين الرقاي شهد كبر لعشر المحرم الحرام لأمواتنا وأموات المسلمين لله تعالى. الفاتحة. الضالين آمين. السلام عليكم. Thank you very much.